We'll do color. Oops. A little bit darker. So now you notice it gives us that two-tone effect. One thing that I forgot to add to this body tag was I wanted to do our font family, and this just gives you a bunch of fonts that the site can use instead of just one font that might not be on the person's computer, so then it'll resort to the default for the computer. So we'll actually do Myriad Pro, which is what I'm using, and you notice that it changed it up here, and then also Times New Roman, which is the widest used, and then sans serif for default. Alright, and now we have to get into our navigation styling. So header UL, do a float right. We'll align the text to the right, so you see it bumps everything over to the side here. And then width, well, we'll do 40%. And then a margin, top of 2 EM. And this, it does look a little messed up right now, but that's because we haven't styled our list item elements yet, which is what I'm doing right now. Oops. Alright, so float it to the left. And what this does is you'll see that it puts it all in order. You can use display inline, which is another option. So if I wanted to change that to display, you get the same effect. But I have noticed compatibility issues with this across browsers, whereas using floats does not cause those issues. And then at the same time, I'm going to do display block, and that should get rid of those dots from the list element. And then finally, I'll add my border left 1 pixel solid and set it to white. And that gives us our white spacer in between. Padding 0 pixel for top and bottom, and then 1 EM on either side. That gives us a nice padding like that. And then just to be safe, because sometimes I have noticed that browsers do put those points back in for the list style, I'll set that to none, which should take care of that. And then finally, header UL LIA for our anchor tag. Give it a color of, can't type today, 9, and then a text decoration of none. So that way it gets rid of the underline there. The next step is to actually apply a hover attribute to our anchor tag. Color white and text decoration underline. So so now if we hover over it, you'll see that it changes color and we get the underline for the anchor tag. You'll notice we don't want this line here, so one thing that I have done in the past is do header UL LI period border borders none. And what this will do is it'll apply a class to that element, but we have to specify it in the HTML. So header UL LI period borders underscore none. And if we go like this, border none, and then copy this entire CSS in Firebug, and then bring it over to Dreamweaver and put it in our style sheet, we can save it and then it should apply. Now we just have to adjust our HTML code to take on the styles that we want. So our class borders none, and that's all that we need to change there. And if we go back into Firefox and hit refresh, you'll see that that line goes away. The next thing we're going to work on is our add. So if we go, oops. There we go. Okay. And then we do our add element, add our background there. Same thing, top left for this, and you'll notice that it hasn't been applied yet, or it hasn't done anything yet, just because we don't have anything in that element. I don't even think I've added that element to our, nope, I did. Okay, so now I'm going to adjust my HTML to do, I like to wrap everything in a div tag when I have to float it left or right. So div and div image source equals images gtr.png, and then I'm also going to add in my that view more button. Alright, so now if we go back out to our HTML, and before I refresh the page, I'm actually just going to copy my CSS, go back into Dreamweaver, and just paste it all in there. Oops, go back to Firefox now, and refresh, and you'll see that our styling has applied, but it's not the way that we want it to be. So what I actually will do is go into my images folder, do the add BG, and click on I'll do open with Photoshop. And what this will do is, I think I've actually grabbed some of the white up at the top there. Anyways, we'll give it our height of, control click on your icon here for your layer. You can actually select everything on the layer and then click on info, and you can see this 259 pixels high. So I'll just go ahead into Firefox, go down to the bottom where this is, and set our height to 259 px. Alright. Set our width to 100, so that way we make sure it scrolls all the way across. Float left. There we go. Now you can see it looks correct. Alright, so now that we have this looking correct, we have to add in our styling for our div tag within our add container. So we'll do float left. Oops. Text line center and margin dash left to give it a little spacing here. One thing that I forgot to add into the add is padding, and we want an EM of padding on top and bottom, but nothing on left and right. There we go. So now it looks a little better. Alright, and I'm actually going to get rid of this height attribute. There we go. Now either way it'll look correct.